It was a bright summer morning when the Morrison family packed their minivan for what they hoped would be the vacation of a lifetime. David, a calm and composed father with a gentle demeanor, had planned this road trip for months. His wife, Natalie, organized snacks and games for their children, Brianna, 13, and John, 10, who were bouncing with excitement. "Don't forget the sunscreen," Natalie called out as she handed Brianna a large bottle. "Mom, we're going to the mountains, not the beach." Brianna laughed. "We might get sunburned hiking," Natalie countered playfully, her smile infectious. David grinned as he took the wheel. "All right, everyone buckle up. We're off to the Blue Ridge Mountains." As they drove through rolling hills and dense forests, the air filled with laughter and music. They sang along to the radio, stopping occasionally to take pictures at scenic overlooks. Their spirits were high, and the worries of everyday life felt like a distant memory. The sun was beginning to set as they entered a small town in Virginia. The streets were quiet, the warmth of the day still clinging to the air. David decided to take a shortcut through a residential area, hoping to bypass the heavy traffic he had heard about. That decision would soon change everything. As they cruised down a quiet street, a police car pulled behind them, lights flashing. David's heart sank. He had never been pulled over before, and though he remained calm, he felt the tension in the car. "Dad, what's happening?" John asked, his innocent eyes wide. "Just a routine check," David reassured him, though the knot in his stomach tightened. He pulled over to the side of the road. Two police officers approached the van. One, a heavy-set man with a hardened expression, leaned down to peer inside, while the other remained standing, arms crossed. "License and registration," the officer barked, his tone aggressive. "Of course, officer," David replied, his voice steady. He handed over the documents, suppressing the anger brewing within him. As the officers glanced at each other, David's composure began to slip. The tension in the air was palpable, especially when the officers started asking invasive questions. "What are you doing in this part of town?" the second officer asked, eyeing David suspiciously. "We're just passing through on our way to the mountains," David answered, trying to maintain a respectful demeanor. "Passing through, huh? You don't look like you belong here," the officer sneered, his eyes narrowing as he turned his gaze to Natalie and the children. "What does that mean?" Natalie's voice trembled slightly, but she held her ground. The first officer, now back at the window, leaned in closer. "You know, we've had reports of suspicious activity around here. You fit the profile." David felt a flash of anger at the clear racism in the officer's tone. "We're just a family on vacation," he said firmly. Suddenly, John, who had been quietly recording the encounter on his phone, interjected. "You can't treat us like this. We haven't done anything wrong." The officers turned their attention to John, their demeanor shifting from aggressive to threatening. "You think you're funny, kid? Let's see what your dad has to say when we take a look at you all," the second officer threatened. In that moment, David felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. He knew he had to act. Drawing in a deep breath, he decided to reveal the truth about himself. "I'm a CIA agent," he said quietly but with authority, "and I'm going to need your badge numbers." The officers paused, the shift in energy almost palpable. David's calmness had caught them off guard. "What did you just say?" The first officer stammered. "I'm a CIA agent," he repeated, his voice steady. "You're harassing my family without cause, and I will not stand for it." The officers exchanged nervous glances. David's composure, the confidence in his voice, shifted the power dynamic. They had assumed they were in control, but now they were on the back foot. "I'd suggest you let us go," David said firmly. "Before I make a call." After what felt like an eternity, the officers finally stepped back. "You're lucky we're letting you off this time," the first officer grumbled, retreating to his patrol car. As they drove away, the tension in the van was thick. Natalie turned to David, her eyes wide. "You're a CIA agent? Why didn't you ever tell us?" David sighed, running a hand through his hair. "It's complicated, Nat. I wanted to keep you safe. But that doesn't matter right now. What matters is that we're okay. John looked up from his phone, where he had just finished recording the incident. I'm posting this. People need to see what happened. What if it makes things worse? Natalie warned. No, it needs to be out there, John insisted, determination in his voice. We can't let them get away with this. The next morning, the video went viral. John had captured not just the confrontation, but also the fear, anger, and determination of his family. Social media erupted with outrage. Hashtags calling for justice and accountability spread like wildfire, reaching civil rights organizations and local news outlets. What followed was a whirlwind of emotions. Civil rights groups reached out, offering support. David found himself thrust into the spotlight, an unexpected advocate for justice. With the help of organizations like the NAACP and ACLU, they organized a rally in their hometown, bringing attention to police profiling and harassment. Brianna and John, initially shy about their newfound notoriety, found their voices. Brianna spoke at the rally about her experiences as a young black girl facing prejudice. We're just a family like any other, and we deserve to be treated with respect, she said, her voice steady. John shared his story of recording the incident, urging others to stand up and document injustices. We can't be silent anymore, he declared passionately. We have to hold people accountable. Natalie took on the role of organizer, setting up community workshops and forums to discuss racism, police reform, and the importance of allyship. We need to educate ourselves and our children, she said, her resolve unwavering. We can't let fear dictate our lives. As the movement grew, David's family found a sense of unity and purpose. The ordeal they had endured transformed into a catalyst for change. They met with lawmakers, urging them to support reforms that would address racial profiling and police accountability. The response from the community was overwhelming. People from all walks of life joined their cause, sharing their own experiences and demanding justice. It became clear that their story resonated with many, a reflection of systemic issues that had long been ignored. As weeks turned into months, the Morrison family became known not just for their unfortunate incident, but as champions of justice. They appeared on news programs, spoke at schools, and inspired countless others to join the fight against racism. David, who had always preferred to remain in the shadows, found his purpose as an advocate. He learned to balance his professional life with his newfound passion, using his skills to help others navigate the complexities of the system. Sometimes, you have to step into the light to make a difference, he realized. Months later, the family sat together in their living room, surrounded by thank you letters and support from strangers who had been moved by their story. The conversation turned to the changes they had seen in their community. Things are starting to change, Brianna said, her eyes bright with hope. People are talking about these issues more openly, and it's because of us, John added, pride swelling in his chest. Natalie smiled, her heart full. We didn't do this alone. We stood up together, and so many others joined us. That's what makes the difference. David looked at his family, feeling a wave of gratitude wash over him. They had turned their pain into purpose, their fear into strength. No matter what challenges we face, we'll face them together, he said, his voice firm. Their shared journey had taught them resilience, unity, and the power of courage. They understood that standing up against prejudice wasn't just about one incident. It was about creating a better world for everyone. As they prepared for another road trip, this time to a rally advocating for further reform, David reflected on how far they had come. The road ahead was still long, but their commitment to justice burned brighter than ever. And together, they were determined to keep fighting, proving that even in the face of adversity, change was possible and love would always triumph over hate.